What's up guys, D2 from DTwoAOV.com here to sort out your confusion this time. So let's get right down to it. What the heck just happened with the most recent patch? So Tencent, the official Arena Valor Twitter account, they posted this graphic. And it had a bunch of heroes that were like, wait a second, these heroes weren't in the actual Taiwan patch that I went over recently. They were, but there's extra ones. And I was trying to figure out what's going on. And I finally figured it out, so I am bringing that news to you guys. So, let's start from the beginning. First, of these heroes, Diao-chan, Zip, Arrow, Florentina, and Hayate were already adjusted on your server. They were already changed. So, this happened on August 1st in Taiwan, and it happened a couple of weeks later to the Tencent server. So, it's been well over a month since it's changed. The only thing is they never actually announced it in-game or on Twitter or anything at all. It was literally just this stealth change. So you've been playing with the change to Diao-chan, the nerf to Zip, the buff to Arrow, the nerf to Florentino, the nerf to Hayate, and the change to the Blessing enchantment. You've been playing with that for over a month now. I'll go over this at the very end if you want me to do so. But let's just keep on going on so that we have the full story of what's going on with this patch. Next, Zip again, Enzo, Nekrov, Malaquiro, Tulin, Natalia, Chi, Xenial, and Fennec, they were changed in the August 27th Taiwan patch, right? This big, huge patch with a bunch of system changes and everything, with all the lore changes and the intelligent signaling, and all that kind of stuff. I'll briefly go over this a little bit later. So this was the big Taiwan patch that came out on August 27th. It's taken a full month for this patch to come out on Tencent servers. Now, the third thing that's come out, so it's not just this patch that's coming, it's also an extra patch. Now, there was a September 23rd Vietnam patch, which is, by the way, not on Taiwan yet, but we're for some reason getting those changes, right? And those changes were to Zil, Zephys, Pyrrha, and Quillin, as well as the item Loki's Curse. Now, to add more confusion, there was also a Thailand patch that happened like around the same day or maybe a day later that had those same changes but also changes to Crixie, but we did not get the change to Crixie. We only got the changes to Zil, Zephys, Pyrrha, and Quillin. And by the way, again, Quillin is not on this this graphic. Funnily enough, I actually assumed that Quillin would be changed and Pyrrha would, and Crixie wouldn't be. It's just a gut feeling for some reason. Like I feel like there's a more like a thoroughfare from the Vietnam server to the rest of the servers, because obviously they have the test server on there. So I think that there's more likely to be stuff going through either Vietnam or Taiwan than there is Thailand. So that's why I kind of just trusted the Vietnam. Anyway, just patting myself on the back there. So if that was confusing to you guys, one more recap. Ready? So the three patches combined into one patch here were first the August 1st one from Taiwan that was already added. You already have these changes, but they've decided not to show those changes until now. Maybe there's some sort of miscommunication between the actual developers and the writers or something like that, or the social media people or what have you. So the other part of the patch that was added is the actual entire massive systematic change that, if you've logged into AOV between yesterday and today, you'll see this massive change, right? All these different things, and you'll see all these notifications and stuff like that. Now, and then the extra part that you might be confused about if you've been following, news from my site or what have you, is these extra heroes, the Zil, Zephys, Pyrrha, and Quillin. These were pretty much rushed through. They were on the test server for a couple of days, whereas other potential changes on the test server that have been there for a long, long time did not go through. So they really rushed these things through. Like I mentioned, these aren't on the Taiwan patch. But anyway, those are where the changes come from. So if you want to look at all of the changes, go to my website, go to this particular article. It's basically, the URL is just basically this. It's d2av.com/, I'll put it in the doobly-doo below, but d2av.com/news/full September 2019 patch notes. So I'm actually going to go in reverse chronological order. First, I'm going to go over the most recent changes, or the most recent news of changes, I suppose, with the Vietnam patch that, you know, is part of this North America change. And then I'm going to go over quickly the big systematic changes, or systemic changes, actually both. And then lastly, I'm just going to quickly go over this super short Taiwan patch that you guys have already seen, but whatever. It's going to be quick. I'm not going to go totally in depth. You really want to get all the details on what I think, then actually go read the articles. Okay, starting off. Loki's Curse. Loki's Curse. They added ability power. Basically, because they took away the synergy between it and Apocalypse, they made it so it couldn't stack anymore. They added this. Also, they didn't want people just building to Monsters Bane and then going to Apocalypse, because Apocalypse scaled better with AP. And it just didn't make any sense for a mage jungler to not even get the mage jungler item. So that makes sense to me. Moving on, hero balance changes. We have Zill. Zill gets a lot better, much better cooldowns in both his Windblade and Tornado, his first and ultimate respectively. Obviously, his 6 is longer than 5.5 at the end of the game, but that's not a big deal, because in the early game, he's going to be able to jungle a lot faster. So, and the last thing is, after he uses Tornado, the first basic attack after using Tornado will silence the enemy, which is pretty massive as well. It enables him to either get out or finish off the kill. So I give him a pretty big buff there, 2.5. Let's go quickly, guys. Zephys, Death Rift. Slow for 2 seconds, slow for 40% for 2 seconds rather than 25%. That's really big, because usually, like I mentioned here, usually when there's a big slow, 40% isn't massive, but you know, anything over 50%, it's usually 1 second or it decays very, very fast. So 40% for 2 seconds is actually pretty substantial. And then they gave him the Dioma treatment. So a long time ago, Dioma had his ult now heal on minions. Same thing goes with the Zephys now. He now can heal on minions and monsters. So that allows him to heal very quickly after getting to a fight if he goes back in the jungle, or it now allows him to actually properly be able to be played in one of the side lanes and keep up with his counterpart. So I gave him a nice 2 there. Quillen gets a pretty big nerf to his mutilate, minus 12%. Minus 12% in the additional AD. Now it is additional AD, so it's not as big as you might think. It's not like ridiculous. In the late game, it's a pretty big damage nerf. But in the late game, he does so much ridiculous damage anyway, and usually overkills people. Obviously, it's a big deal if he can't, if he's on like a razor's edge and he can't kill someone, because he needs his resets. But early game is not going to make him go any slower, and really his weakest point was the early game, or was the early game. So as long as he's not taking any longer to jungle up, he should be still okay. But you are taking around 280 damage with a full build, and 100 once you hit your power spike with Clavis Sancti. Next, they nerfed Pyrrha. They nerfed Pyrrha. They took away some of her healing. It's a decent amount of nerf. It's not like you'll feel it, but it's not going to be ridiculous. But part of the reason why they did this is apparently Pyrrha is like one of the highest ranked heroes on multiple servers, which completely baffles me. I don't know why. This must be like a ton of people at gold ranks who don't know how to play around her in the early game. If you guys don't know, she's kind of like the Maganga of supports, where, I mean, she's better than Maganga, but the reason why I think she's the Maganga of supports is because people should not try to fight against her early, because she will out-trade you every single time, because she literally just heals the ally back up, whereas all your counterpart support can really do is stun people, right? And healing is a lot more powerful in the early game, especially when it's a 2-on-2 situation. And on top of that, I don't think people realize this, but when she pops her healing light, the ally actually gets increased attack speed. So she's going to win any trade early. And you know how games in lower game, not even just lower ranks, any ranks, how games snowball really, really badly. So don't fight a team with a Pyrrha in the early game. Just wait till you get farm below, but then you can kind of deal with her, because she doesn't really have the panic button that other supports do. Okay, and then after that I basically just mentioned the fact that one of the changes was to Brunhilde. The change to Brunhilde, she was out for such a small period of time before they changed her. I don't think anyone noticed that she was changed. Again, it was a stealth change. And she was on the Tencent servers before she was on any other servers, so it was really quick. I don't think anyone really noticed, unless they were just like spamming up Brunhilde. But as you can see on the screen, they increased the duration of her passive, they lowered the slow on her sentry, and they increased the range of her or increase the cooldown of her ultimate, excuse me. So, relatively big nerf, but I mean, people... The Brunhilde you know now is basically the Brunhilde that's been here the entire time, right? It's not like no one ever got too used to the previously stronger Brunhilde. Alright, now that we got that through, for those of you who have not seen... or not read this article about what happened with the actual update, I thought they would just put out patch notes and people could look at them and all that kind of stuff. And I actually replied to someone in one of the comments saying I wouldn't actually go over this in the video, but they just never came up with patch notes. So apparently the only way you can actually find these patch notes is through my translation. I guess they're like, well, D2's doing our job for us, so whatever. Anyway, I'm gonna go quickly over the system changes before we do anything else. I think this is pretty cool, but you can kind of read for yourself if you want to get more into it. Lore pages add a lot of lore stuff. Actually makes it kind of cool. It makes it they had the map and everything, so you can actually go into it. I'm too lazy to go back and change these to English images, but you can see it in game right now. Lots of cool stuff. A lot of interaction between like different realms and different characters and all that kind of stuff. Intelligent communication system is really nice. I've been loving it when I play on the Taiwan server. The best thing is telling your teammates that your ult is up in a certain time, because otherwise you either have to type it or there was the quick chat where it was like, oh, my ult's not ready or something like that. But this tells them specifically, like, I have 10 seconds to my ult or something like that. So it really helps you set up fights without having to go and sit and type there for forever. All you have to do is drag the exclamation point to your ult, or you can drag it to like one of your abilities if you're like Grak with long cooldown on important abilities, something like that. Additional quick messages. Sorry, my fault. Kind of nice. There's like a bunch of them added actually. The combat system, whatever, that's whatever. Credibility score system was improved. Basically, there's more of a carrot to be a good boy and more of punishment to being a bad boy. Although most of the punishment is actually just taking away rewards, so it's whatever. The proficiency rank games, you can't pick a hero in a band pick draft system unless you have a certain amount of proficiency. The only time you can do so is if you are in a 5-stack. And the weird thing is, if for some reason you have insufficient heroes during a band pick draft, then they give you like a list of heroes to choose from, which is kind of bizarre to me. It's like they should just not let you play in the first place if that's the case. You can change the spot of the three sounds. I thought this was actually really bizarre. Like I would move stuff around. I had like heal in like the top right corner when I was playing like Abyssal Clash, things like that. Anyway, it's just, I don't know, it's great. More Workshop is kind of cool. The interface is nice as well. All that kind of stuff. Read more if you want to know more. More heroes added to 10v10. Fix the AI of a few things to make the AI more intelligent. It's still pretty stupid from my experience playing in Taiwan, but that's okay. And hero models fixed. There's also a bunch of bug fixes as well, but I was too lazy to translate all of them. The quality of life. The quality of life is better, guys. Next, Ring of the Fiend got nerfed. Rip Ring of the Fiend. And Purifying Bracers got buffed. Which is, this is a needed buff. The range of purification was so small. I think part of this is like, obviously people kind of differentiate between the water stones and the wind stones, but these kind of have like a tie between them as well, like a connection between them, I should say, because they both have CDR. They're the two support items that have CDR. So this might push people from Ring of the Fiend over the Purifying Bracers. Obviously, like there's certain situations where you'd want both of them. You want to have the vision and you'd want to have the purification. So now people might be pushed more towards Purifying Bracer. Also, they're free of control effects for 0.5 seconds. It's more of like a Chognar effect. Cool. Moving on. Holy Summoner now has 100 raw pierce in the early game. Thank goodness. 15% pierce was absolute garbage. Obviously, 100 raw pierce is not as good in the late game, but like, you're not going to kill tanks late game anyway, especially with the stupid little Holy Summoner thing that's not doing any damage anyway. But now, Holy Summoner is really, really good in the early game because it's now doing basically true damage to opposing squishies, right? So if you're going against a squishy, it's basically doing true damage against them, which is super, super nice. So yeah, if you really want to snowball the game, and have that nice early game, then go for Holy Summoner. It's a lot better now. But again, it's still not going to do a whole lot in the late game. Sacred Protection lost the movement speed. Pretty substantial nerf. It's not the go. Like, you can't just pick this as, like, you know, every single hero in the game anymore. It's still useful, obviously, if you want to have that, you know, semi-panic button where you get a shield when you're low, but it's not for literally everyone and their mother, right? In order to kind of compensate for that, they fixed the magic lifesteal. I don't think the magic lifesteal thing like even worked in the first place. It's also like only 1.5 seconds to make it work, so kind of bizarre. And also up the lifesteal. So if you're like tooling or something, maybe be even more aggressive, get that lifesteal going, get your resets, all that kind of stuff. Visceral boost. If anyone ever tried to play Visceral Boost, I severely overrated it, and it was just absolutely just crippling. Just crippling. You could not do anything. And you know, you needed to have that the reduction go away before level 12. Now it's before level 8. Should be a little better. I don't know how many people use it, but yeah, definitely need to change. Next is Explosive Shield. It uses Sun Towers. Great. It only Sun Towers for 0.5 seconds, 0.75 seconds anyway. It's still a garbage item. Please don't pick this item, guys. It's really, really bad just because you have a hero that's really good with it. It's 20 seconds is way too much. Do not pick Explosive Shield. I beg of you. It does basically nothing. Alright, so these balance changes, as you can see on the screen here, they all were above 1. So they're all significant changes. Zip got relatively nerfed. They fixed the bugs though. They fixed like the stupid bugs where you could just you could use your suck while you were recalling and then suck the thing back to your base, which was just absolutely obnoxious and obviously shouldn't have been in the game. And the nice thing about removing the sun when the link breaks is super nice. If you guys don't know, when Zip uses his first ability, it links two people together if they're close. And when they ran away from each other, first of all, they take extra damage while they're linked together. And then if they try to run away from each other, they would get stunned. So it's like damned if you do, damned if you don't. Now there's actually some sort of counterplay, and there's some way to actually, like, you know, strategically move, right? If that makes any sense. Because prior to this, right, one of the nice things about Zip, I should say, is that he makes people move in like weird direction, which is kind of nice. Normally it's like you either run away or you run toward the enemy. There's no like running sideways unless you're just dodging like a hook or something like that. But now they have to like move away from your teammate, which is kind of like a different way of moving. And kind of adds more complexity to the game. And I think that before it was just kind of like, well, they're screwed. There's nothing they can do, right? So I kind of like this. They also made the mana cost go way, way, way up on his second ability, and you know they increased the magic or the mana cost of his ultimate in the prior patch, the stealth patch that I mentioned earlier. So he is very mana intensive, and it's kind of sad actually. I don't know if they changed developers, but the old developers, or they may be the same developers, but before, in a past life, they used to just reduce the mana cost of everything, make it basically more fun to play. You know, the less mana cost, the easier it is to play someone. Recently, they've been upping mana cost, and I don't know if I like it. As much as I don't really like, as much as it's not fun to play against it, it's definitely not as fun to play with him now with these extra mana costs. All right, moving on to Enzo. So Enzo, there was a bug where the actual ability would extend way beyond, like 250 units beyond what the actual indicator showed. So that was huge. And then they upped the cooldown on Decapitate, and it's only 0.5 seconds, but it's kind of a big deal because you only have a small window to use it. I don't know, it might lower the total cap on how many times you can get to Decapitate off, but it's certainly going to be harder to get, 3, for instance, off in one chain. So that's problematic. Moving on, so I gave him -3 because the range, the ability to just like pick off people is much reduced now. Moving on, Necroth, I gave him a pretty big nerf score, even though it's not. His cooldown of his abilities were only reduced by a little bit. And again, usually late game cooldown effects aren't really as impactful because you're gonna have CDR, all that kind of stuff to be able to get around anyway. But because he's constantly using his abilities, it's like he's always gonna be like a second slower. Like through the entire part where he's split pushing, where he's doing all his annoying stuff, he's constantly gonna be a second slower and everything because of these nerfs. So I gave him a hefty nerf of 2.5. Malak is like. I remember in the first graphic they showed him as like it showed him getting, he was rebalanced, not buffed, right? It's like, this is definitely a buff. It's absolutely ridiculous. First of all, you get more, I mean, this is actually the lesser of the buffs, right? You get more shield per enemy soul eaten. The max is the same, but the amount that you get per enemy is larger, so it's much easier to get a big shield. But the big one is shock. So now when you hit, if you shock onto the enemy team, you immediately get, you immediately enchant your blade. And enchanted blade is a massive difference from a non-enchanted blade, because not only do you get 2 damage, but you also get the healing. So it really ups Malok's ability to re-engage. Like, for instance, if you're running away as Malok and you randomly just like decide to ult back in if you're really low on health, you're probably gonna die. Because, I mean, you might knock them up, but then you're still low, and they're gonna kill you afterward. Now you ult in, you knock them all up. While they're knocked up, you pop your cleave, you heal for a ridiculous amount, and then you have your soul eater. It changes everything. It really changes everything on him. And if your blade's already enchanted, then you can then the shock does true damage, and it's the actual damage on shock is actually kind of a lot. So that's actually a big deal as well. So if you're like in the middle of a fight and your ult suddenly comes back up again, then you can just ult on them. That does a lot more damage than it normally would. So this is actually a massive deal for Malok, and I gave him accordingly a pretty big buff score of 2.5. Wiro, he actually got some pretty nice. So he's more defense basically when he dies, quote unquote, which makes it so a lot easier for his allies to save him. By the way, you should always save him because it gives him more health when he revives, and it gives you health as well. So you should always save your Wiro if you have him in the game and he's like dead, he's savable. But he now does actually a lot more damage. I did some of the math. It didn't seem like that much damage, but like honestly, he feels a lot better. It might be me just playing too much Abyssal Clash in Taiwan, but he feels like he does a lot more damage. It feels completely different. Yeah. So let's move on to Tulin. Oh, this feels so good. People always hate Tulin because he's been so good for so long, but this is definitely a good change because and the new mechanic is that if the enemy hero dies before Thunderbird hits, reduce the cooldown by 80%. Obviously talking about his ultimate. This is so frustrating for Tulin because a lot of times you wouldn't even want to pop your ult if someone was about to die because you're like, oh no, it's gonna be a waste. They're gonna die. I'm not gonna be able to get my my ult back up. So basically, if you pop your ult and they die to some other thing, then you're still gonna get your reset, which is how it should be. It removes a lot of stupid things from the game, like your allies not wanting to kill the opponent, the person because the Tulin might not get the kill, all that kind of stuff. So it leads to losing kills. It leads to playing stupid. It's better this way. Natalia, it's kind of funny because they've given her this buff. I think this is the third time in like a year and a half. I think this is the third time in a year and a half that they've buffed her range by exactly 1 meter or 100 units. And it's funny because they keep doing this, and yet this might be the straw that broke the camel's back because now her range is absolutely ridiculous. It's on par with some of the longest ranges in the game, like Crixie, like Diao-chan. So now she's not only like an absolute ridiculous burst hero, but she has ridiculous range as well. And it's actually easier to, I mean, obviously it's easier to land because you're throwing it from farther away, but it's easier to aim in a way because it's the spirits are narrower, or they're like a narrower range because they go farther, right? So it's actually easier to hit people because you can just aim pretty far. And even if they're in like you can aim, for instance, the max distance of 11 meters. And if they're like 8 meters away, it's still going to hit most of the spirits because the actual, they're not like crisscrossing like crazy like they would be, previously. So, it's kind of weird because I gave her a 2 because it's pretty ridiculous, but actually might be a bigger buff than that, even though it's only 100 meters because, again, it's the straw that broke the camel's back. It's just ridiculous range, and it's easier to hit, and everything just so much easier to do. Cheese was absolute garbage when she came out. I was always wondering why her ult had this, mechanic of when you hit them into a barrier, then it stuns them longer. It's like that'd be really hard to do, but apparently it's because they meant to have her ult actually be longer, right? So it's actually ridiculous range now. But the thing is, it doesn't actually go as far as the indicator, but it does extend a little bit behind her. So be careful about the range, but the amount that she pushes back is absolutely ridiculous now, and really lends to being able to knock people into the wall more often. Xenial, I love this change. So when you use Malleus, now you are immune to CC, and it completely flips the script, because before you'd be so afraid of jumping away with Malleus and getting stunned during it, because then if that happens, you're basically dead, because that's your one escape, other than your ult, obviously. But that's the same. There's the same risk there involved. So now it's the exact opposite. Now you want to perfectly time your Malleus during their CC, and you can nullify it. It's like it's basically a complete 180. Before, it was a massive weakness. Now it's a massive strength for him, where he can just get away by using his CC immunity during Malleus. I can't tell you how many times in the past I've been screwed over by being stunned, but the opposite is true now these days, because now I'll try to stun Xenial as he's Malleusing away. I'm like, and he just gets out, and you're like, oh yeah, that's right. that was changed, and it's kind of a funny situation. Anyway, moving on to Fennec. Fennec got nerfed a little bit. The biggest nerf is to his chain hammer cycling, which is a lot longer cooldown. He doesn't really need his ult. Like, he could just have his first and second abilities and his passive and still be like a pretty solid hero. He's kind of like Violet in that way, but obviously having a big AoE recastable ult that does crit damage as well and can clear waves, it's super nice. It was just kind of like a little bit over the top, so I am on board with taking that away. The range doesn't make a huge difference, but obviously being outranged by other marksmen will make him a little bit weaker in that regard. Okay, I think I'm done actually. The other changes, obviously there was a nerf to Jiaoshan, nerf to Zip, buff to Errol, nerf to Florentino, and nerf to Hayate in the patch that you've already been playing on, I promise you. If you want to read what actually happened a month and a half ago, then go to DTwo.com. And that is my cue to sign off, guys. Hopefully this was quick enough for you to enjoy. Hopefully you guys understand what's going on. I'll see you guys next time. Subscribe to the channel, click the bell, and I don't know, go to DTwo.com. Bye-bye.